Cubs still haven't made a move as far as free agency goes on the major league roster. That doesn't mean that Jed Hoyer and company aren't working towards one. And every day it seems like the Cubs are a little bit closer to bringing Cody Bellinger back to Chicago. A reunion that I think all of us want. He wants, we want, they want. Everyone but the rest of the teams in the National League. All right, let's talk about that and more. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. I appreciate all the support. Guys, we're almost to 3,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do so. And if you can help by sharing, tell other Cub fans about the channel. Hey, I'd appreciate that as well. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillispie at Broadcaster Mick on the socials, and it is great to talk Cubs baseball with you guys here on a daily basis. The offseason is slow anyway, right? And we're in that hot stove season, but the hot stove really hasn't been hot for the Cubs. I mean, they haven't done anything yet, right? Couple moves in the minor leagues with guys who think that they have a chance to make the big league team. And a lot of these guys, if they don't, then they don't even want to go to AAA. They try to go somewhere else. I mean, they're very small moves as we kind of get closer and closer to Cubs convention, right? So once New Year's is over, the next thing's Cubs convention. And that's always fun. I was a panelist at a bunch of them, and I totally enjoy it. Not planning on going this year, but maybe next year, maybe take the channel there next year. Who knows? But anyway, all right, let's talk about, though, the news today, the news that I think that you guys are wanting to hear and that I really think is kind of going to make some of you guys happy. Now, nothing ever until it is signed is, permanent or definite, but Jon Heyman, who is one of the great writers, New York Post and New York, says that the Cubs are now the favorite to land Cody Bellinger. And I mean, I get that vibe myself. I said this a couple of days ago. I think that the market for Cody Bellinger just keeps shrinking, and I don't really know why. We've talked about the analytics crowd and how they feel like his exit velocity is too weak. I just don't buy into that. Maybe it's the 2 years before he got to the Cubs and how poorly he did, and then teams are afraid if they give him a big contract, he's not going to live up to it. That's a legitimate concern because we've seen guys do that, and for the Cubs, their worst nightmare is another Jason Hayward. Hayward played really, really good that year with the Cardinals before he came to the Cubs. And then after he got that contract, it was all of a sudden the production just kept going down, 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 down. And it's happened to other teams as well. But with all of that said, I think Heyman's right. And I think that the market is working towards the Cubs and a Bellinger reunion. And here's why. The Cubs need him. The Cubs need Cody Bellinger. He was such a cog in last year's team. Give him some more guys around him that can help produce. Give him some days off, right? And players don't always want days off, but they need days off to be fresh, for the entire season. Not everyone's Cal Ripken Jr. I mean, like a guy that can play every day. And who knows what his numbers would have been had he taken some days off. Billy Williams was the Cubs Iron Man back in the day and didn't have many days off. But you know what? The way that the game's played right now, days off are a big part of it. I mean, no one plays every game anymore. So give him some pieces, bring him back home. Talked about some teams that could possibly be in this mix. One is the Angels. And the only reason I say the Angels is just because they didn't get Ohtani. But from all reports, they're going after pitching. And that's probably a good idea because they still have Mike Trout and they have other guys that can hit. They gutted their farm system. They got a lot of work to do in so many places. Adding another guy that can hit without pitching is not going to help them get to the postseason. So if they were going to spend that kind of money, big money, then they probably need to spend it on another one of Scott Boras's clients, right? The left-hander that just won the Cy Young with the Padres. It'd probably be a better fit for the Angels' money. But some other teams are going to be after Blake Snell as well, right? The Blue Jays saw reports. It was like, well, they signed Kevin Kiermaier to play center field, but don't count them out on Cody Bellinger. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, how are you going to justify paying someone, $200 million or whatever the contract's going to be that has no position now because you just signed a guy that's better defensively than him to play center. And then you got another guy that plays first base, unless you're going to move that guy to DH. But, are you going to have Vlad Guerrero Jr. be your DH that young? I mean, I don't know. I think with the Blue Jays, they need to figure out what they're going to do at third base. Are they going to re-sign Matt Chapman? That could happen. It wasn't like they were a bad team last year. They just didn't perform in the postseason, but they got there. And that is their first taste of the postseason. So, maybe more pitching for them. But they say the reports are that they're still interested in Bellinger, although I just don't think it makes sense, right? The San Francisco Giants, I mentioned this before. They signed a center fielder. They're paying, $100 and some million for out of Korea. The guy needs to play center. What are you going to do with Bellinger? Well, maybe you could always find a spot for a guy that could hit. But resources, it's not like you give up $200 million and you just throw it away. I mean, if you're spending that kind of money and you're the front office, you really have to justify that. So then it comes down to, well, maybe there's a team out there that we're not thinking of. But at the end of the day, it just makes sense. Cubs want him back, and I'm sure in the back of his mind, he'd like to return as well. The market just wasn't there for him. And then some people were saying, and this is not actually a bad idea. Maybe he signs one of these, Carlos Correa contracts where he's got an opt-out after a year. It's a longer deal, but he's got an opt-out, and then he can go through the whole process again. And if I was the Cubs, I'd say, okay, yeah, I mean, we would do that. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is limit the amount of years because, I mean, anything after 5 is a lot, right? They gave Dansby Swanson 7, and maybe you go 7 or 6, but it's just so hard to look 6 years down the road and see what kind of production you're going to get from someone. And it's not like Russell Wilson in the NFL where you can, basically bench him and then release him and save $35 million in a contract. That he gets all the money. So whether he's sitting there playing or not, he's going to get paid for every dollar that you basically sign him to come to town for. So you just want to make sure that you're getting production for the money that you're spending. And, we talk about the Hayward deal because I think that a lot of us are snake bit from that. But maybe you get a John Lester deal, where you get a guy that comes in and kicks ass for the entire deal and you feel great about it. But I think Jon Heyman's right. I think that this market just continues to kind of push the Cubs and Bellinger together. Maybe you get to the point, if you're Scott Boras, where you say, you know what, let's just go ahead and get this thing done. You meet somewhere in the middle. And then if you're the Cubs and you get Bellinger, then you can go out and start to kind of figure out what else you want to do. Do you want to get a first baseman? Do you want a third baseman? Cubs got to have starting pitching, whether they bring Bellinger back or not. So we'll see how that market kind of plays itself out. But it's not like there aren't still some really good pieces available. And I know Cubs fans are kind of in that panic mode right there. Don't panic yet. You're still kind of a ways to go in the hot stove season. But it would be nice to get this one done, because then you could do a lot of other stuff after that. And to me, if the Cubs don't sign Bellinger, then you really got to be creative in trying to piece together the offense that you're losing by not bringing him back. And I'm not saying that you couldn't be successful doing that, but you may have to deal for Pete Alonso, or, I just don't think, to me, Rhys Hoskins comes in and is that much of a difference maker like Bellinger was. Right. One of you guys got in the comment section like, yeah, just what we mean, another 240 hitter that strikes out all the time. And it's like, yeah, he strikes out a lot, hits 240. He does hit some home runs. He drives some guys in, but 240 is 240. I mean, that's less than, a hit every 4 bats. I mean, so it's a lot of outs and a ton of strikeouts when you're not putting it in play. So, you'd have to be creative. The good news is that the farm system is pushing guys that direction. And I think that eventually this could be the year. I think this is going to be the year where you're going to see a lot of those guys come in and pop. 1 or 2 of those guys are going to be as good as they were in the minor leagues. And then all of a sudden now you're going to have some other pieces in there. And I could see, eventually guys challenging Ian Happ for left field and Seiya Suzuki for right field down the line. And that's what you want. You want that. You don't want your guys coming up through your system and failing. I mean, you want guys coming in and succeeding and winning and taking jobs and making competition on the big league roster a legitimate thing. All right, couple things I want to tell you guys. First off, I hope you're having a great holiday season with New Year's coming up shortly. All of you with your holiday money, that Christmas money, are ready to spend. Go to smokiesbaseball.com/store and spend that money. You got all kind of really cool stuff there. So find out for yourself, especially if you like, Cubs gear. They've got a lot of that. They've got Smokies gear. They won their first championship in 45 years. Yeah. So they've got some of that. They've got autographed cards and signed bats and game use stuff. So go check it out for yourself. smokiesbaseball.com/store. Go Cubs.